On most mornings my house sounded like a rehearsed routine. The coffee maker clicked before dawn, the heater coughed once, and the hallway light hummed permission to start the day. My husband left early for the gym, and I packed son Evan's lunch, tucking in a goofy note because it always made him grin. Our best friend Tessa lived 3 streets over, and on Wednesdays she dropped Evan at school to save me time. Weekends ran on errands and backyard projects, little tasks that felt like proof of partnership. We shared passwords for streaming and calendars for chores, and I believed transparency was our default. I knew every sound our house made, the dryer's clack, the door hinge, the dog's nails at 4, and I wore that familiarity like armor. Ordinary life had a pulse I trusted, predictable and warm. I did not notice when that pulse slipped off beat, only that rest left me drained, as if sleep stopped being a refuge. Small disturbances arrived like wind lifting a page. My husband started adding extra workouts, explaining that his back felt tight and the steam room helped. His phone lived face down on the counter and requested new updates at strange hours. Tessa began canceling our Wednesday drop-offs, texting that meetings kept stacking and that she would make it up to me. She seemed more polished at casual gatherings, with sharper eyeliner and a glow that felt unplaceable. Evan mentioned seeing her car near the soccer fields on days she claimed to be across town. None of it rose above the threshold of conflict, it merely thinned the air. I told myself seasons change and friendships bend, and that marriage requires stretches of parallel tracks. Still, a small ache settled behind my ribs, the kind that waits out the day. I started checking locks twice before bed, as if security could be counted. Suspicion is not a single event, it is a hum that gathers weight. I noticed gym towels tossed into the hamper on rest days, and receipts from a juice bar far from our neighborhood. My husband started using new phrases, coaching talk he never liked before, and a cologne that stung my throat. Tessa texted less but reacted to our family photos with bursts of hearts and confetti, as if choreography could replace conversation. When Evan's bedtime crept later, my husband offered to take the dog on long walks, returning with a calm that felt practiced. Even the dog seemed confused, restless near the door at times he used to sleep. I did not confront anyone. I organized drawers and baked banana bread, a ritual of proof that home still held. The hum did not stop. It learned my steps and matched them, moving room to room until the silence between familiar noises became louder than the sounds. Tangible clues gathered and refused to be dismissed as mood. The shared credit card showed a boutique hotel charge on a weekday afternoon, tucked under a corporate-sounding name from a waterfront strip where we never stayed. A rideshare receipt landed in our email at midnight from an address 2 blocks from Tessa's Street. The dog's tag, always reliable, smelled faintly of gardenia after those long walks, a fragrance Tessa wore all spring. A backup phone appeared in my husband's gym bag, the screen locked but the case brand new. His calendar began blocking time with neutral words, planning, stretch, catch up, that never used to appear. The bank app recorded repeated cash withdrawals in odd amounts, as if someone tested alarms without setting them off. None of these items confessed anything alone, yet together they built a map I pretended not to see. I printed statements and slid them into a folder, naming it household, because truth needed a practical name. Verification required quiet, not confrontation. I arranged a sitter for Evan and told my husband I had a late meeting. Instead, I parked 2 blocks from Tessa's cul-de-sac and watched porch lights trade places with the sky. My husband's car rolled in at 7:30, not from the gym, not from work, just drifting like someone who recognized every mailbox. I walked the neighborhood without approaching, counting cracks in the sidewalk and listening to sprinklers hiss. Through an open window, laughter rose in a cadence I knew too well, not words, just the particular warmth of 2 people practicing intimacy. A porch light flicked off, then on again, and time slowed into practical details. Shoes by a doormat, 2 cups on a railing, a jacket I had bought last winter hung on the banister. I did not photograph anything. I memorized it and went home, feeling like someone who had translated a language she never wanted to learn. Confirmation arrived on a Tuesday that pretended to be ordinary. Evan was at school, the dog sleeping like a curled comma, and I was sorting laundry by habit. My husband's backup phone buzzed against the dryer drum because I had moved the gym bag to vacuum underneath. A notification preview flashed with an address, a door code, and the phrase "usual time." The nickname attached was one only Tessa used. I did not open the phone. I wrote down the address, folded the paper into my wallet, and took a drive. The building matched the message. Discreet parking, muted entrance, potted plants that tried too hard. In the lobby mirror, I saw a person who looked steady enough to carry hard truths. I turned around and went home. The proof I needed was not inside a room. It was the ease with which the path presented itself. That ease was the line I decided not to cross. Immediate fallout felt less like fireworks than a fault line. I made pasta for Evan, cutting cucumbers into moons, pretending routine could hold. My husband talked about traffic and spreadsheets while not meeting my eyes, and the dog watched each of us like a referee with no whistle. After bedtime, I laid the receipts, calendar prints, and the folded paper on the table like tools. I spoke in measurements, dates, locations, overlapping blocks, and said I would not host confusion anymore. He looked small, then angry, then something blank that mirrored a closing door. I told him he could stay in the guest room until we arranged details for a separation, and that conversations would be limited to Evan and finances. I did not request stories or apologies. The facts sat between us, heavy and plain. In that stillness, I chose clarity over comfort, and the house changed shape without moving a single wall. Cutting ties began with boundaries that sounded unremarkable and felt like moving a mountain. I blocked Tessa on every platform and deleted shared photos I no longer needed to curate. I texted a short message to neighbors that we were taking space and that Evan's routines were unchanged, because gossip repairs nothing. My husband asked to explain privately. I declined, pointing to the folder and the address, reminding myself that understanding would not change the breach. I returned a borrowed book to Tessa's porch with no note and turned my face toward the far sidewalk on the walk back. I changed the code on our front door and moved the dog's bed to my room, then slept with the window cracked open for clean air. Boundaries did not heal anything that week. They simply stopped the injury from traveling farther, the way a tourniquet buys time while the body remembers how to clot. Legal and practical logistics rearranged my weeks into lists with signatures. I met a lawyer who spoke in steady terms about separation, temporary agreements, and the difference between relief and revenge. We opened a separate account for household expenses and agreed on a calendar for Evan's schedule, anchoring him with sameness wherever possible. I gathered tax returns, insurance policies, and the roof warranty, learning languages I had avoided because I trusted delegation. HR forms asked for beneficiaries and emergency contacts, boxes that suddenly carried weight. I paused autopay on memberships my husband used and set passwords I would remember without sharing. There was no triumph in any of it, only a slow restoration of agency, like finding lights in a power outage. Each document signed felt like closing a drawer that had been hanging open for months, risky in its looseness. Order returned in inches, not declarations. Family dynamics settled into guarded kindness around Evan. We told him together that adult problems sometimes require separate houses, choosing words that respected his intelligence without handing him our weight. His questions were practical: whose house kept the Lego sets, which dog bed stayed where, how school pickup would work. I kept Tessa's name out of his hearing, refusing to seed confusion with characters he could not place. At school events, we stood on opposite sides of the auditorium, waving with practiced ease. On my days, we made pancakes for dinner and took the long route to the park, letting routine reweave safety through repetition. He began sleeping through the night again, and the dog settled at the foot of his bed like a sentinel. Grief appeared as ordinary forgetfulness, a lunchbox left behind, a math sheet unsigned, but we adjusted with checklists and gentle reminders, choosing stability one small decision at a time. Rebuilding arrived in pieces, none dramatic, all necessary. I rearranged furniture to change sightlines and donated the rug that held too many birthday crumbs. I enrolled in a weekend bookkeeping class and discovered the calm of balanced columns. I moved my body with intent rather than punishment, walking the long loop around the lake at sunrise, letting the water reteach consistency. Friends who remained brought soup, not strategies, and I learned to ask for specific help rather than vague comfort. I made a small ritual of reclaiming spaces, new towels, a plant by the sink, a lamp that warmed corners evening could not. I practiced sleep in a bed that now felt mine and noticed my breath landing deeper. The folder of evidence stayed in a drawer, untouched, because the point had shifted from proving harm to practicing care. Identity followed behavior, slowly and without announcement. Reflection did not arrive as closure, it arrived as a workable story. I understood that betrayal is chosen privately but felt publicly, and that my task was not to solve their mystery but to rebuild my own certainty. Boundaries revealed themselves as scaffolding rather than punishment, holding shape while my life cured into something sturdier. Evan grew taller and funnier, proof that resilience can be nourished with pancakes, routines, and honest sentences about hard things. I forgave myself for missing signs because trust is not foolishness, it is a gift we offer to build families. I do not speak to Tessa, and I greet my former husband with civility that protects our child. Some mornings the house still hums with familiar sounds, and I let them be neither memory nor warning, only evidence of living. The lesson is simple. When certainty breaks, you can construct a new one, measured in boundaries, kindness, and decisions that face forward.